we're going to be talking about this. In fact, probably worth a story around all this. If you're unaware, on Friday night we hosted Ping-Pong-a-Thon. If you don't know what Ping-Pong-a-Thon is, you would not be the first person in the world. Ping-Pong-a-Thon is a charity aimed at education and intervention around slavery around the world. And so on Friday night we gathered together, I'd say maybe about 30 of us in the room, and we just played ping pong through the night and took a moment just to pause and reflect about what we can do and take a moment as well just to contribute, if you could, towards, financially towards the charity Ping-Pong-a-Thon and the work that they do. And then on Saturday night we've been partnering up with Maitland Baptist Church as well. And they last year ran Dine for Freedom, which was a 3-course meal that hosted out of Maitland Baptist Church. And there would have been 60 odd people in the size of a shoebox. And so this year we offered them our church and said, come and use this space. And so we held that last night. And as part of that, I got a chance to speak with someone called Matt, who you'll meet in a moment. And I left so encouraged and so inspired, and so I found it so deeply thought-provoking. And then lamented that we didn't have a chance to record it, because I was just like, oh man, I just wish my church could have seen that. And I sat there through the evening and just thought and prayed about that. Meanwhile, knowing this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I got sicker and sicker through the week, to the point where on Thursday I sat down to write a sermon, and I wrote about 2 paragraphs and then fell asleep, which I was like, well, this is going to be a banger for the church. You're just going to, wow, this is just so rich. I just feel so deeply rested in the presence of God in the midst of this one. And so I've been trying to balance how do I write the sermon around playing games of ping pong, and then Saturday and all that it brings, and then Sunday, and I was like, well, Sunday morning I'll sit and I'll finish and I'll craft it, and then we'll bring it Sunday afternoon. And I woke up Sunday morning, and my lovely wife, who again shows how much more wisdom that she's got than me, just went, well, why don't you talk to Matt? Like, why don't you wanted him, he's going to be there, you're going to do 5 minutes with him, why don't you not just do 5 minutes with him? And so all of this is born out of a land of going, okay, let's just respond, I think, to what the Spirit is doing in my life without me realizing it, and bringing something good out of a fairly rubbish sickness. And that is that we have Matt here, and he's agreed to come and share with me. And so Matt, come, and if you would give him a very, very quiet and dignified welcome. Matt, how are you?
I am... Hello.
You're there, yeah.
Good. I'm very, very tired. Can I tell you a little story to get going?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, first let me do my bit, which is on Saturday night I told Matt that I had some questions but not really, and we were just sort of going to follow where it went. And so we just did that, and now I have again some idea of where I want to go, and I've got a verse that I'd like to get to, but who knows where we're going to get there. So you're already taking control, and I love it. So go for it.
Okay. Well, just to probably reiterate how much of a God thing this probably is right here, right now. I was at Maitland Mission this morning, and just during a quiet moment during the service, talking to God, and I'm just chatting away about the next day or two for me, flying back to Melbourne tomorrow. My next few days are very, very big, and I just found myself saying to the Lord, if I got a call from Tom at Maitland and he wanted me to come in this afternoon and talk properly at length, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then just put that thought aside, and then service ends, your message comes onto my phone, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, all right.
Be careful what you say to God.
Yeah. Well, most of the time it's no. I'll go anywhere, but not there. But what a wonderful openness. Matt, some of us know you from last year. Matt came and shared with us last year about your work with Ping-Pong-a-Thon. But for those who are new or who missed it last time, who are you and where do you live and who's in your house?
Backstory?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Born in Cambridge in England. I'm sure my accent betrays me there. nearly 58 years of age. Came to Australia as a very callow and rough backpacker.
No, hold it, callow? What is callow?
Callow, rough.
Sorry, is anyone else callow? Yeah, great. Okay, what's callow?
Callow, rough, young, inoffensive.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Callow, rough backpacker when I was 20 years of age. I came to Australia for that year with a full intention of a year of misbehaviour on all manner of fronts, but instead met Jesus and met my future wife. So it wasn't quite the year I anticipated, but it was still probably singularly the greatest year of my life. So fast forward to today, I live in the beautiful Yarra Valley in Victoria, where I live with my one wife.
That's a good number.
We have 4 adult children. We have 2 mad dogs, one vicious cat, one friendly cat, and I'm part of Yarra Valley Vineyard Christian Fellowship.
Okay, and you fill your time with?
Pong and Uber.
Okay, well let's do one at a time. You've got a Pong, and I think we should probably explain what that is.
Ping-Pong-a-Thon, an explanation?
Yeah.
I think you did a pretty good job, but we are, for the last 15 years, Ping-Pong-a-Thon, and let's just deal with this now. It is a funny word, and we just call it the Pong, okay? So the Pong has been fighting slavery. We're a fundraising, advocacy and educational movement Australia-wide. 15 years young, we've raised $5.5 million in the time that we've been ponging. There are literally thousands of individuals who have ponged across these 15 years. There's been close to 1,000 individual Pong events now across these years. And the money that we raise, we send to our charity partners in Southeast Asia, India, and one in Melbourne, who in different ways are all fighting slavery. And so it's a very quirky thing that we do. It almost certainly shouldn't really work. You shouldn't be able to make a dent in slavery by playing table tennis, but turns out you can.
Yeah. Yeah, so how's if I was coming to a Ping-Pong-a-Thon event, what would I expect to happen there? What does it look like?
It's a great question now. There's some fundamental things about a Pong event, and that is table tennis. Now, it could be, depending on the size of your community, perhaps on the age of your community, that you'd be coming into a 24-hour event. So you might be ponging for 24 hours, and people are cooked after they're ponged for 24 hours. Or it could be that it's a 3-hour event or a 6-hour event. It really depends on the size of the community. And then what the community does with their Pong event is really up to them. Like, we've had some disco pongs, we've had some pink Pong-a-thons where there's a pink theme. At my church at Yarra Valley Vineyard in October, we're having a black and white Pong event, with the idea of that being dressed up in black and or white. Why? Because the issue of slavery is black and white.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So we're waiting to see how that goes. What we have said to people, and I know I've got a New South Wales audience here, but no Collingwood jumpers allowed.
If you wore red to that, you'd look so good against all the black and white. Just.
I am now.
How do you get in, like, growing up, obviously you grew up without faith and then you found faith, but at no point I don't think you ever thought, you know what, when I grow up, I can't wait to be one of the key figures and a relationship manager for an organisation fighting slavery. Like, how did you get into this?
The thing I really want to answer that with is when I grow up, I'll let you know. Okay, I think I'm a very blessed man. I appreciate that. I had a 20-year career in homelessness in the inner eastern suburbs of Melbourne. It was a job that I thought was a forever job. I created a lot of housing for a lot of homeless people that still exists today. I really thought I would be doing it until the day I stopped breathing. But 9 years ago, it turned out that I wasn't to continue in that job after 20 years. And it was a job that I loved, I was good at, I was well paid for, I was respected. And then suddenly I went from that, by my own personal choice, into unemployment. With my wife looking at me sideways like, well, it's really good, man, to trust God and everything, but where's the bills getting paid from? And I honestly didn't have an answer. But I was fairly sure that God still had an adventure or two for me. I'd never heard of Ping-Pong-a-Thon. I received a phone call one day from one of the board members of Pong, and he said, I hear you finished your career in homelessness. Would you be interested in coming to do some strategy work with Pong to help get Pong to the next level of growth? And I said, Ping-Pong or what? And he explained what they do, and he asked me what I knew about slavery, and I said, well, next to nothing, which is where most people start. Had lunch with him and the founder, and they thought I could be the person to help them take them to the next level. And 9 years later, I now know an awful lot more about slavery than I did on that first day, and we've grown it and continue to grow it.
So last year we came and we ponged together, and we set out to raise $2,000 Saves a Life. And we managed to do that. I think we even got 2 lives, which we were stoked about. What then, in the past year, has happened in the life of Pong and you? You know, where's the dream? What's happened? Tell us the stories of the last year.
Big question. Stories of the last year.
Okay, sure. Tell us the stories of the last 2 days, and just what's happened in the last 2 days. There must be some great. No, come on.
There are. You know, there's always stories. There's not a day that goes by where there's not a story, one way or another, that comes to us. Whether it's stories from our partners overseas, where they're saying, because of Pong dollars, this has been able to happen. These kids have been able to stay in school. These families have been rescued from brick kilns in southern India. These are our latest plans that we're going to do. Is that okay with Pong dollars? Or it's going into a school and talking about Pong and talking about the issue of slavery, and then seeing a young life impacted. And sometimes when you're in that school setting, you can almost pinpoint the moment. You can look at somebody and know that they've got it. It's gone deep. It's gone into their marrow. You know. So there's always stories. But a couple of the big things that have happened across the last year for Pong. First of all, we've got a new website now. That doesn't sound that exciting in and of itself. Most charities at some point are going to retire an old, aging website and get something a bit shinier and a bit brighter. But the reason that this is exciting for us is because 2 young men, and when I say young men, I mean early 20s in Adelaide, who are long...
Just confirming that someone turning 37 is still in that young men category.
All right.
Just asking for a friend.
Two really young men in Adelaide, both aged about 21, which is really young, right? and they're long-term Pong people. They've Ponged for many, many years. They approached us. This is me and my colleague David. There's only 2 of us in the Pong. And they said, guys, love the work of the Pong. Your website is a bit rubbish. And we're like, yeah, we know that. And they said, we think that we could make you a much better website. And part of the old website that we had was that every donation that was made into the website, remembering we received about $500,000 of donations each year, a small part of each donation would go to the platform that was hosting the website. I hope that all makes sense. These young guns said, we can make you a website that is an awful lot better than your current one and takes out that middleman, so that with a $500,000 fundraise each year, we will save Pong about $10,000 to $15,000. So we're excited, full stop, about having an all singing, all dancing new website. Why wouldn't we be? But we're super excited about a website that's going to save $10,000 to $15,000 a year, so that money can get where it needs to go. So that website launched 4 weeks ago now. Like all new websites, there's a glitch or 2 along the way that we're still ironing out, but we can already see the benefit of it, and it's much more user-friendly, and it's much more now in our control. So yay for the 21-year-old boys in Adelaide. That's one story.
Sure, yeah.
The second big thing that's happening this year and will roll into next year is something called PSP, that stands for Pong Schools Program. Now that is not a very all singing, all dancing title, but it's only a working title. So for David and myself, we are well versed in walking into church communities all around Australia of all and any denominations, and we know how to talk and preach about justice and mercy and introduce the concept, the idea of slavery to people. Often that's quite shocking for a lot of people that have never encountered slavery. So we feel kind of expert in walking into churches and talking about slavery, talking about Pong, and encouraging people to host a table tennis marathon to do something about slavery. That's our bread and butter, if you like. Now, we have had significant success in bringing Pong into high schools over the years, but not to the level that we've managed with churches. We're not teachers. We don't fully understand how to go about getting Pong into schools on a regular and easy basis. We don't know who the gatekeepers are. We don't understand the levels of red tape that have to be gone through. So when we do get Pong events up in schools, they're generally good, they make decent money, and we're able to get in front of high school students and talk about the issues of slavery, which is huge for us because we want to talk so that we can get into young hearts and young minds. So we thought about this and we talked to some teacher friends within the Pong community, and we asked them whether they thought it was a good idea if we put a Pong curriculum together to talk about slavery, and then to culminate those lesson plans with a Pong event. We got a really good reception from the teachers that we talked to. So I have spent the bulk of this year putting together a school's curriculum for Year 10 to Year 12 students about the issue of slavery. And I'm happy to say that in May, I took my baby, my lesson plans to a group of real live, real cynical Year 10 students at a Christian school in the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne. Quite terrifying experience for a non-teacher. And for the first 10 minutes, it felt like they were just looking through my soul and giving me absolutely nothing. And I'm thinking, my material is absolutely rubbish. This isn't going to fly. But then as they started to grapple with the issue of slavery, and for many of them it was shocking. Then they warmed up, and I ended up across 2 weeks presenting both of the lesson plans. And the idea of going into this school was to road test the material, and there were 2 or 3 pieces of my material that will never ever see the light of day again. But that's why we did it. But much of it was really, really well received. And that group of Year 10s are hosting an all-of-school Ping-Pong-a-Thon this Thursday for 12 hours. So we are definitely onto something. I've got goosebumps talking about it because it's been such a personal investment for me. And if people are praying for Pong in the days and weeks ahead, this is what we're asking you to pray about. The PSP, the Pong Schools program can mature, that we can get it in front of the right people, and that this will be something that will give us an opportunity to reach, let's be bold, thousands and thousands of young lives, so that we can get into hearts and minds about slavery, but not just about the issue, that we can actually confront it head on by something as wacky and wild and quirky as a ping-pong event.
All right, Mike. Yeah, I've got loads. I want to even take us back just to you finished your housing job, homeless job, and you're in that place of going, I don't know what's next, and I don't know how God you're going to provide for me, and then you walk into a charity, which is very much like the heartbeat of that is whether or not you can convince someone that this is a worthwhile cause to invest in. And so very much you're still in this place of trusting for God's provision for you as a charity and for you as a family? Like, how do you navigate that space? What is the...
I guess I had an advantage, Tom, really, because I'd worked in the charitable sector in homelessness for 20 years. So and for a Christian organisation, so I was used to that. Pong was different in that 100% of funds that come in are from donations. Whereas when I was working in the homelessness sector, there was a lot of government dollars involved. So even if our fundraising wasn't great, it didn't mean we were going out of business. But yeah, that really means for pretty much the last 30 years, I've worked in the charitable sector. I'm sure there's plenty of people here who are working in the charitable sector, so you know that there's no serious money in it. You certainly don't get monetarily rich through doing it. And you do have to lean on him. Yeah. On that, David and I, we often talk about how, as two men of faith, we are in so many ways beyond rich because of what we do with Pong. But beyond rich does not extend to being monetarily rich. The riches that we understand come in very, very many different ways. But once again, but are we rich men? We 1,000% are.
I think it's 2 Corinthians where Paul talks about just how little the community that he has, and he gets to this point where he says, though we have nothing, we have everything in that. And there's this balance of, we're beaten, we're persecuted, broken, pulled down, poor in every single way, having nothing, yet in some way having everything.
And Tom, I'd love to sit here and I'd love to be able to honestly say that, having as little as we have, this is me and my wife, that it's never a stress, but that's a lie. Sometimes it is a stress, and you just have to lean in harder, right? Because I am convinced that doing Pong is where Father wants me to be, and as long as that remains the case, that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah, it's another one worth just sitting and letting that marinate for a moment of being where God has for you may not be particularly comfortable all the time. But that doesn't mean it's not where he wants you. Yeah. So this year you've gone over to Thailand, Cambodia, Philippines.
Yeah, and during that trip, also went right up to the Golden Triangle. So we're right on at one place where literally in Thailand, but looking over Laos and Burma, Myanmar as well, without going into them on this occasion. So that was just over 2 week trip that I came back from 3 weeks ago. And David and I went over to visit Pong partners and to see the work firsthand, the projects that Pong dollars are supporting.
Yeah, so worth just talking there for a moment and going, you're talking about Pong partners. So obviously your organisation is not boots on the ground. So how does that work?
100%. So to be a Pong partner, you have to be a registered charity in the country in which you're operating, and the countries in which our partners are operating are Thailand, Cambodia, the Philippines, Vietnam, India and Australia. And then to be supported by Pong, an organisation must be working in one of 3 key areas. Must be working in education and prevention, rescue and aftercare, systemic legal change, the strengthening of legal systems. So if a charity approached us and said, hey, we're doing this great work in Cambodia, and we'd ask them, are you working in one of these 3 key areas? And they said, no, sorry, we can't help you. As you can imagine, when you become known as a charity that exists to give money away, we're very popular. And we have a lot of charities and very good, well-intentioned charities reaching out to us saying, will you support us? And the answer is normally no. Because with the $500,000 we raise a year, that money goes an awful long way in Southeast Asia and India. But at the same time, it's $500,000, it's not $5 million. And we want to give our partners good amounts of money so that they can do really meaningful, fabulous work, which is why we choose to have between between 6 and 8 partners at any one stage, rather than 1,000 partners and giving them all $10,000 kind of thing. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you're going over to visit these.
Yeah.
Where did you go and what did you see?
The most important thing to say about the visits is that we visit because we build everything Pong does on relationship. And we want to be able to go and see and touch and taste and smell the project so that we can come back and we can say, hey, Maitland Baptist Church, $4,000 that you raised last year, let me tell you where that money, how that money is being used, and it's being used well. And how do I know it's being used well? Because I've touched it, I've seen it. So we went to visit, during our trip, we visited 4 partners, and we visited 2 groups that we're looking at bringing on as potential partners in a very small way to start with, because that is how we start with a partner, with a tiny, tiny amount of money, because we want to see what they do with it and how they relate with us. And if we don't think they're using it well, or they're not relating with us well, we stop funding them. It's quite simple. Yeah. But to be able to go over and see the projects, very touching.
Now, sure, you shared about the Philippines and one of these partners that you went to, and I think it's worth just sitting there for a bit and your experience, and just, what are these guys doing, and what did you see? What did you feel?
I'm very, very aware of the visceral response in me to that question, because it was such a moving 2 days. So it's a partner in Manila. It's not a partner. It's an organisation in Manila called He Cares. And if you know anything about the Philippines, you know that just about the entire population is Catholic. So it's a Catholic charity. Now, we've been tracking with He Cares for 18 months now, and we are on the verge of bringing them on as a new partner. And they do some incredible work. They do work with kids and families in some of the slums in Manila. And confession time ahead here, Tom.
Alright,
Yeah.
okay.
So
I absolve. No, you've got to confess first. You should confess.
I think it's fair to say that in my Christian journey, I think I've been reasonably cynical of the Catholic Church per se. And there's probably some fair reasons for that, but there's probably plenty of reasons that aren't fair. Now, the guy and his wife, Joe and Ardis, who run Ping-Pong-a-Thon, they're as Catholic as they come. But I'm not sure I've ever met a couple who have loved Jesus more than these 2 people. And when I encountered this couple 18 months ago, it was a truly humbling experience for me, and really forced me to look at some of my preconceptions, maybe misconceptions about the Catholic Church. Perhaps in a room 1/3 of the size of where we're gathered now is the He Cares Centre in Manila. And at a Saturday lunchtime, Joe and Ardis and their team of volunteers, they go into the slums of Manila, the slums local to their base, and they bring the primary school children in. And with a military precision, with tables and chairs set up, and an army of volunteers, 180 slum children are given the best meal they're going to have in their week. And imagine a plate of food in front of you and there's perhaps 5 items on there. We watched, with just quite fascination, we watched so many kids consume 1, 2, maybe 3 pieces of the meal and then pop it in a bag so they could take it back to their families, so that their families could have something half decent to eat as well. So to see these kids eat well, to hear them being taught the gospel, and then to watch, again with military precision, cars, minibuses, vans, taking them back to their slum homes was really quite something. But that in itself would be enough to be moving. But then Joe, the guy, said, do you want to go to one of the slums and see where the kids live? They're like, yeah, we do. And this is a guy who's given his last 40 years of his life following dramatic conversion, to caring and loving on the poor of Manila. Now, if anybody's been to Manila, you know that it is a mental place and it has traffic like perhaps nowhere else on earth. So whilst Joe was driving us to one of these slum areas, every set of traffic lights we'd come to, there'd be somebody selling, peanuts or looking to get a couple of bucks for them to do your windscreen kind of thing. Every single person we came to at traffic lights, Joe would wind the window down and there'd be a look of delight on the person's face as they recognised that this was Joe, this was their man, this was their guy who'd been alongside them for however many years. And I thought, if this isn't being the hands and feet of Jesus in his community, I don't know what is. So that was inspiring. But then, literally, we go up over the wall into the slum area. Now, David and I have been in slums before, but this was of a different level.
Oh, yes, that is.
And I think if Joe hadn't been with us and been the man that he is and as loved and respected as he is, I think David and I would have felt very, very fearful for our safety. As it was, we didn't need to, because every single person in that place knew and loved him, and rightfully so. Then interestingly, we started to notice that the kids that we saw in the slum were the kids we'd seen at the feeding program at lunchtime. And if you're thinking, what's this got to do with slavery and trafficking and all that stuff? It's got everything to do with it, because slavery exists because of, on the one hand, greed, and on the other hand, poverty. So if you are the poorest of the poor, you are at the greatest risk of being trafficked or ending up on a screen for a Western man to peruse. There were a couple of moments in that slum that I don't think will ever leave us, and that is that these kids, undernourished, all with really good teeth, because don't need sugar. Yeah. Very few doors, very few walls, very few barriers, barricades, anything like that. These were some of the happiest kids I've ever seen in my life. You know, their soccer ball was tape, just taped up, yes? No phones, no TVs, no screens, no nothing. And yet here were these kids, and the one thing they had in abundance was community. And it was truly, I don't know the word, sobering, humbling, delightful, painful. Every afternoon we were in Manila, it chucked down rain 2 o'clock, like chucked it down. We were out of the slum by 1 o'clock, we were heading home that night. But I could only imagine what that slum looked like with inches of rain just turning it into mud. Don't know. I think that what David and I do, the privilege we have of doing Pong and encouraging communities to participate and stand in the gap of injustice is an amazing thing. But we were totally, almost embarrassingly so humbled by this man and his wife and their mission. And I think that the delight for us is that we get to come home and talk to churches all over the country and say,
And high schools.
High schools, yeah. Say, you're equipping that work. And I hope that resonates. I really do. One other thing about the trip, if that's cool? Yeah.
Are we good? Yeah, great.
Tom said we're here for about 5 hours.
You can just, the door's there, and when you're done, just be done, that's fine, we're just gonna...
Just keep bringing coffees. One of the reasons for the trip to Southeast Asia was to go to Chiang Mai in Thailand, to go to ARAT, the Asia Region Anti-Trafficking Conference. Now, this is the 3rd time we've been to ARAT, 2nd consecutive year. And it's Asia region, but it really stretches from Japan all the way down to New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. But just to be in a room full of mainly Christian people, I think that's fair to say, who are combating trafficking and slavery, and to hear what's going on, totally inspiring on the one hand. On the other hand, difficult to hear that so often those in criminal enterprise and those who are doing the trafficking and the slave masters are so often one step ahead of the game. Doesn't mean we stop, not at all. It gives us more reason to keep going.
I mean, when you share about those children sitting down and 5 things on their plate and they take 3, and even them go, well, I know what I'm like, and I know how, well, I think I know how I would treat that plate of food, and I suppose even just hearing that story, I feel challenged, I feel gutted, I feel, what gives you strength to go on? Like we both want to get to verses at the end of the day, and I think that'd be a good place to go. Where do you turn to, and what in the scriptures gives you that one more day when you're in that place?
Some ways, Tom, I wish that I had a really easy, trite answer and an easy verse just to throw at you.
I'm sorry, I'll give it to you. It's Philippians 4:13, okay? And it says if you can... Sorry, no.
But I just don't. Yeah. I look into the Old Testament and how often God talks about justice. Justice for the widow, justice for the orphan, justice for the broken, And I think that's what just makes us get up in the morning, that we want to bring whatever the part of his kingdom coming on earth is that he wants me and David and Pong Nation to play. That's what we want to play. Not a try answer.
That's good though. No, I'm okay with that. Okay, so here I am. Maybe let's talk about the back wall. We put some posters at the back. What's going on there? Looking for a tissue. Has someone got a tissue?
I have one.
Got someone? Sorry, my Philippians 4 joke was really funny. And so, no, I did the same thing. I'll cover for you.
Yeah.
You're doing good. Keep going. All that story about...
Well, look, here's Jen. She's here. No, I'm okay. I'm all right. No, I'm too manly to cry. This church has never seen me cry, right, guys? It's been about 3 weeks since. You're right. You keep going. Sorry, I'll keep stalling and talk about. We have the back wall. So on the back wall, Brian has put up posters, and we're going to put these here. We're not going to take them down for a little while. We want them to sit, and it's going to be great if you're again praying for Ping-Pong-a-Thon and you're praying for our church. We are going to have 100 USH people coming into this room a day for the next 5 days, and for every day that we have them up, there's a chance that someone walks over and goes, "What is this thing?" And so, what is this thing about? What they're going to read, and what then do I pray about?
Okay. First poster says, "I am an everyday abolitionist." The second poster defines what an abolitionist is. A lot of people don't really understand the word abolitionist, or if they do, the person that they think about is William Wilberforce in the 1780s, 1790s and early 1800s, who led campaigns through the British Parliament to make the transatlantic slave trade a thing of the past. He had incredible success, but he didn't abolish slavery. He did his bit, more than his bit. Now, abolitionist is such an old-fashioned word. Every year at the Pong, in our campaign, we have a different theme. And our theme this year is with cross-taking tennis bats, I am an everyday abolitionist. And what it means to us, and what we're hoping that Pong Nation really adopts, is this idea that to be an abolitionist, you don't have to be rich or famous or have 1 million people who follow you on socials. You don't even need to be good looking. You just
Praise Jesus.
a relief.
You're saying I could be a 37-year-old pastor and an abolitionist?
Correct. In fact,
Good.
you are. Because you Pong this weekend, that proves you're an abolitionist. So to be an abolitionist means to do something to rid the world of slavery. Now, if you want to donate to Pong so that we can do some of the things we've been talking about, great, thank you, donate. If you want to pray, if you want to pray for the Pong, if you want to pray for our schools program, if you want to go onto our website and look at the work of our partners and pray for them, if you just want to ask God to continue to bring his justice in this area of slavery, be an abolitionist that way. If you want to start getting serious about the coffee that you drink, the chocolate that you eat, the clothes that you wear, understanding that there's supply chain issues in many, many things that we consume daily, get involved as an everyday abolitionist in that way. We figure that if we've got a nice, you've heard me say this here before, but it's the same thing about, it's the grandpa joke. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, grandpa. Why one bite at a time? Because the elephant's a huge, grandpa. That's right, but if we take enough bites of that elephant, we will eventually consume it. So very simply, oversimplistically, that's how we end slavery, one person at a time, bringing one person out of slavery at a time. But to do that, we need a collective effort. We need Pong Nation on steroids to do that.
Yeah, and so you've captured 4 stories at the back there. Real stories, real people change names.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and all of those stories have a tag at the top, and it says that it's a story about prevention, it's a story about rescue, it's a story about aftercare, it's a story about education, the kind of the pillars that we are working to. So yes, the names have changed, the stories are real. Please, over the next few days, take them
Today. You should look at them this afternoon, shouldn't they, man?
They probably should.
They probably should. That would be a good thing to do.
Also, all those stories are up on our All Singing, All Dancing new website as well. You can have a look there.
Yeah.
And maybe make a donation money there, just so.
Yeah. This is where I want to go with this. We stand again, and we talked about this a little bit last night. You and I stand, and we talked about it's a binary choice at this point in terms of will you go and do something about this, or will you not? And as you're confronted with story around this, we have a choice to go, okay, I'm beginning to become aware that slavery still exists in my world, and that then leads me to a choice to say, am I comfortable living in a world in which slavery still exists? Or is it something that I go, actually, this is not the way that the Lord calls us to move in the world. This is not his plan for the world. And therefore, as someone who represents him and acts as his hands and feet, which we're going to talk about next week in our series, there's a question of, do I have to do something about it? But it's a binary choice of, do you lean in or do you lean out at this point? And I wanted to show you this as I sat and thought this morning about it. This is a really short story in Mark 3. And Jesus is hanging out in the synagogue, and he comes upon a guy. In fact, the religious leaders seek to trap him. They're out to get him. And the way they do it, they get a guy with a shriveled hand, and they stick him in the synagogue, and they go, right, when Jesus heals this guy, we're going to be able to get it. Like, he's not allowed to heal him because it's a Sabbath. And they had a whole bunch of rules that they started creating around the Sabbath to make you not sin on it. And the solution that they got to was, this guy is in great pain, and so let's stick him out the front, and then Jesus can't do anything about it, and that's going to be a really good thing. Jesus has an option at this point. As he walks in and sees this guy, he can choose to look towards him and move towards him, or he can go, you know what, that is too hard for me today. I just don't feel like it today. You're going to see, it ends with, verse 6, it ends with the Pharisees go out and they plot to kill Jesus. Jesus is aware of what they're doing, and he's aware of what this is going to cost him. And before he makes that decision, he's aware of this. What are you going to do, Jesus? Are you going to move towards him, or are you going to take the easy route and go, yeah, but I could do so much more if I don't do that. I could make so much more impact in the world if I don't get killed. What if I could push that back a bit? And instead, what he does is draw this man out into the front of community, identifies injustice before them all, and the question sits there with the community, what are you going to do about it? And then he does something about it. And only the way that Jesus do it, the way that we can dream of. But he does something about it that still costs him greatly. And we stand in this moment, and you have a choice before you this afternoon. Is this a moment where I go, okay, Jesus, I hear you, and I hear your heart, and I can feel you stirring stuff into me. I can take this, and I can do something for 2 minutes, and then on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's gone. Or I can start making a real step and start asking, okay, God, if this is your will, and if you love these people, what is the next thing you want me to do? And if I'm in that camp, then, Matt, what is the next thing I can do? And I've got some answers too, so we both have things to share.
Okay, so if you're sitting here now thinking, I want to know a bit more about slavery in my world, please go and find out a little bit more about slavery in your world. There's a ton of stuff out there, including on the Pong website.
Oh, does the Pong website look like this? Oh, does the Pong website look like this? Ooh. Sorry, that was poor. I forgot I had it fill up. That's my bad.
Get yourself a little bit more educated. Understand what the different types of slavery are in the world today. Understand where slavery exists. Give you the answer. It's all over the world. Surely not in Australia, Matt. No, sadly, in Australia as well.
There's a difference between poverty and slavery. Yeah.
The other thing you can do, if you're inspired by the work of the Pong, or if you're inspired by any other charity that is fighting slavery, and there's plenty of them out there, consider making a donation. Pray. We are a movement that depends on people praying for us. It is vital. It's the engine room of who we are. And then if you're sitting here thinking, I wonder if I could bring Pong into my place of business, or my college, or my school, or my church, if you're visiting from another church. Or I wonder if I could get together with some of my friends and have a Pong event in my shed. Well, the answer to all 5 of those is probably, yeah, you can. So if you'd like to do a fundraiser on behalf of Pong and hear a bit more from myself and David, then that's an awesome way to get involved. Yeah.
I want to put 2 more resources across to you that are hopefully helpful. A friend of mine, his name is Fuzz Kiddo, and you talked about, oh, you know Fuzz? Oh, wonderful. He works in a company called Be Slavery Free. This is what they do. Every year they release an annual chocolate scorecard, and they go and rate every single company that's involved in chocolate and is aware of the supply chain of that. And then they give them a rating based on how ethical and how well produced that chocolate is. And then they put that up on their website for free that you could go and engage in and go, you know what, you talked about coffee, you talked about chocolate, and you talked about fashion. And this is an easy one where you go, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim to buy more on this end of the scale. And maybe if I'm feeling so inclined, maybe I could write to that company and say, hey, I'm one person out of 20-something million people in Australia that has started buying your chocolate, but I wanted to know the reason, and it's because I see that what you're doing around justice and chocolate, I think is great. And you could do that. So go.
Could I just talk about the Be Slavery Free website? It is fantastic.
Yeah.
There are such good animated short videos on Be Slavery Free that we use a lot of the Pong. We love them, and there's always a good response to them. So one way of educating yourselves is to look at some of the short videos on Be Slavery Free, and I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed.
There you go. One more for you. If you're into fashion, Baptist World Aid to an ethical fashion guide. If you don't understand, you're part of a Baptist church, which is very exciting. This is what Baptists do. This is the Baptist Association. I've got together with Baptist World. I've made an arm of the association called World Aid, which is aimed at World Aid. And as part of that, each year, again, they do the same thing as that chocolate company, but they do it with fashion. And you can put any brand that makes clothes into their fashion guide, and within 3 seconds, not very, very quickly, they'll give you a broad overview of that company, of what they're doing. It's got 6 different drop-down things where you can see it and go, wow, they're doing this really well. Again, you can sit there and go, right, I'm going to start at Zara as a brand at the moment. It's doing really, really well. And you could go, you know what? Zara cost me a bit more, but the reason it cost me a bit more is because I know that the supply chain is really good. And so I'm going to go, they haven't paid me to do this, but I'm going to go to Zara and be like, hey, I'm going to buy something more from you. Or maybe I can't afford all my stuff from Zara, but I'm going to get one from there really intentionally this year. Or maybe I'm going to write to the company of Zara and say, this is great. I really want to support you as you do this. And then maybe you want to go to another company where you go, I love the way these clothes feel or made or whatever they are. I love your design stuff. But your score sucks. Hey, would you fix this? Because I really want to buy this shirt, but I don't want to support this. And you could write to that company, and you could make a difference. Just you being one person in a chain. And I think this is where we want to go, and where we're going to, I'm aware of the time would be. Slavery is quite big. We talk about 50 million people in the world. And that's a lot of people, and there's just you and me, and now a small group of people. Like, what difference can we make in that?
Difference is huge, because for every one life that we're able to impact, that one life, that could be a generational change. That one life won't be affected. It might be tens, dozens, hundreds, ultimately thousands of lives that are able to live slavery-free, live in freedom. And if we believe, as we do, that each and every individual is wonderfully and fearfully made in the image of God, then that's got to be worth our investment of our time and our resources and our energies, surely. So I just don't believe that anything that we do in an abolitionist journey is wasted.
We have gone way too long, and I apologise. But I hope that I would talk to you another 100 questions. But can we first just thank Matt for this time? We would like to do communion. I think it would still be good to end singing together. I think that's important for us as a church. And so the way we're going to do this, first I would like to pray for Matt. I think that's good to do. Then I'm going to come and break bread. And as we sing, let's just sing and break bread just as a way of responding. And if God is stirring something in your heart, again, let's just do that business with Him. Holy Spirit, come and speak to me. And as I take bread, and as I take cup, and I remember sacrifice for me, well, Jesus, what are you calling me to sacrifice for you? What are you calling me to sacrifice for your world? What are you calling me to give up that someone else might have something? If we take that plate, what are the 3 things that I get to take, but the 2 things that I'm going to take away and give to someone else, even though I really, really want them? I break bread. Give thanks that He gave everything for you, and that you and I have an opportunity, a privilege, a responsibility as those who love Him to respond to Him. Yeah? So let's just pray. God, we do give you thanks for Matt, for his work, for his faithfulness, for the moment of his conversion, and for the journey that you have led him on all these years past. God, would you bless him? Would you protect him on his travels? Would you keep him in the very palm of your hand? As he travels, would he be safe? As he and Dave pray through what is the next steps, would you give them great wisdom? And for communities that are engaging with them, and for this high school program, and for so much more that is happening in the conversation and the life of Pong, God, would you give them great wisdom, open the doors, and pour out your favour on them, that we might see a world changed for you through us. And so, God, stir this in our hearts, that justice will be a part of who we are more and more. Lead us into your life of sacrifice, that we might see your kingdom come and your will be done. Amen.